Jackie, Jolie, thanks for joining us. How you doing?
Hey guys, good night. How are you guys doing?
Oh, this will be fun. We're kind of experimenting with live again in video, so you're one of the perfect guests for that because you got a bit of some visuals to show us, and I love your work and what you're doing. So this is going to be great.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Do you want to start off with your story, kind of the last few years, and your kind of your route into researching the sun and how important light is?
Yeah, absolutely. That's usually how I start most of my talks, just so people can resonate and get to know me. So I'm Jackie Jolie. I'm a certified quantum health protection practitioner for the last 3 years. Um, I always kind of considered myself quote unquote healthy. I've worked outside with horses for a living for about 10 years now, and I rode horses and was outside most of the time, ate a decent diet, exercise, thought I was doing all the correct things. About 5 years ago, I came down with Lyme disease. I did have a tick that bit me. And, you're not kind of really surprised at first when you get a diagnosis like that, especially when you have like the tick bite. But unfortunately, in our modern medicine community, all that my doctor wanted to give me was 3 months of straight antibiotics. And since I had kind of already followed a pretty natural, holistic kind of way to healing or medicine in my life, I wasn't really interested in taking 3 months of antibiotics for my gut. So I started doing some research into Lyme disease and found a lot of different people that had been afflicted with it, and most of them had not recommended to do the antibiotics. And there was some herbal tinctures and some other protocols to take along with it. And when I talked to my doctor about it, I said, okay, well, if we do your way of doing 3 months of antibiotics, if I still have Lyme disease or issues afterwards, what do we do? Oh, well, we just put you on 3 more months of antibiotics. And so I was kind of disheartened by that process because I was like, that just doesn't work. And it didn't make sense to me. So I told her, okay, sure, give me the prescription. And I went my own way, like usual. And I did heal the Lyme disease with an herbal tincture protocol that Dr. Buhner has come out with. Um, Highly recommend him for anybody that is dealing with that disease.
What's his name
However,
again? What's his name again?
Dr. Buhner, Buhner. He actually just recently passed away. We totally missed he's a wizard. He's been working with herbalist medicine for probably 3 or 4 decades. And he's been helping the Lyme community for about two of those, and just a wizard about plants and herbs and animism. Lots of books out there, all of that. So definitely look him up. So anyways, I had used his tinctures and herbal protocol to heal the Lyme disease, but when I got done with the Lyme and was not testing positive anymore, I still had all of these really bad symptoms left over, like low libido, hormones were on the floor. I still had really bad fatigue. Energy wasn't great. Lots of brain fog. Like I wasn't able to really do my work, which is something that I love and I've been doing for a decade. And I was missing vocabulary and just not my normal self. And I was 35 at the time, and again thought like I was always relatively healthy. My doctor, even at that time, after doing blood work, after fixing the Lyme, she was like, yeah, your hormones are on the floor. We should give you hormone replacement that you're going to need for like the rest of your life, because I could almost diagnose you as premenopausal. And I was like, this is not right. Like this is not normal at 30 something years of age. So I
Would
had to
that be estrogen then? They'd give you estrogen, or like
they would
what do they give you?
Yeah, so like my testosterone was not very high, and so they would initially start giving you like progesterone initially, and kind of just see progesterone's one of the main master hormones for everybody to make your sexual hormones, and you would use that initially to see if your levels would come back up. If they don't, they start giving you your other hormones like estrogen, and then females can take testosterone. They have to be very careful with it, of course.
They're
Um,
popular these days, actually.
it is. Those women are like on high alert. Um, but with any type of hormone replacement, things can really cascade and get like out of whack because we aren't realizing that our whole body works on like a clock system, which is called circadian rhythms, and we'll kind of get into that tonight. And if you don't know when you're supposed to be making these hormones and when it's supposed to crescendo and when it's supposed to fall, why are we just like kind of blindly taking hormones that are all affected by different environmental triggers or signals? And we're naturally supposed to get those signals from the sun and from light. Um, Obviously, in our modern world, we're living indoors under artificial lights, and then we're taking these hormone replacements that are just causing mismatched signaling in the body. And that eventually just leads to a lot of chaos in the body, which chaos just equals inflammation. And as we all know, chronic inflammation leads to disease and death. So I was not keen on any of her plans, obviously. And I had a good friend of mine that I've known for several years that always kind of like led me down the correct path of like weightlifting and paleo and different type of just health factors in life that worked out well for me. He had found out about Dr. Jack Kruse, Kruse. He's a neurosurgeon from New Orleans. He's been teaching the quantum lifestyle for close to 2 decades now, trying to get it onto mainstream, trying to get it into our doctor's offices. Obviously, as you guys probably know, Big Pharma does not like free medication that actually heals us. So he definitely has struggled getting it to those larger communities. But things are starting to change now to getting that information to the people. And once you start your quantum lifestyle of healing your light life, the positive effects and benefits just quadruple, and the foundation just compounds, and you feel amazing. I'll be 40 next year, and I have more energy than I even had in my 20s. Libido is back, hormones are back. I still test negative for Lyme. I don't have allergies. I don't have an autoimmune disease. None of the conflicting issues that affect our modern population now. And it really all has to do with light. Electricity has not really been around for that long compared to how long we have been. Modern medicine and pharmaceuticals have not been around that long, for as long as we've been around. And our system's not working anymore. We're obviously seeing how much more sick people are becoming at younger and younger ages. And what truly has changed is our light environment. And so in my personal story, once I was able to change things that I was doing that was keeping me in a bad light environment, everything healed and also just got better and stronger. There's obviously a little more details to the personal story too, but I know we only have an hour. So that's kind of where I started. I started changing my light life, and we can get into some of those protocols at the end. And things have only gotten better. So that's where I've come into this place of now I have this huge passion for it. I got certified in quantum health, and I now teach it in local yoga studios, health practitioner offices. I try to get on podcasts as much as possible because I truly believe this is the information that people are missing. And that once you start getting better, you make better decisions in life, you do better things. Hopefully this is the way that, like in my mind, we can unite and try to get through this like shit show that we're living through at the moment. And so I think that that's just really great to spread the message. So that's what I'm here for.
If they don't block out the sun before it's too late.
Right. That's why we have to keep spreading this message so that they don't do that.
I mean, it must be weird for you to hear them say that when you've done all this research on the sun specifically. Like you say, this is the number one thing for healing, right? Over food, exercise, sleep. I mean, some of them are also important, but this is number one, right, to you?
Yes.
And here they are talking about literally blocking it out.
Because they know, right?
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. Do they, you think?
Yeah. I mean, our ancestors, like one of my slides, if you go back to the Greeks, the Native Americans, Romans, everybody, all of our ancestors before, we didn't have the news, we didn't have pharmaceuticals. They knew and revered and worshiped the power of the sun. The sun brought life and light to everything it touches. How could it possibly be bad? We still actually have some tribal systems in the world. There's not many, but people that still do live in sync with nature, outside, building their shelter, hunting food, eating just what they can grow at that time of year around them. And they're out in sun all the time. They're not burning. They're not getting skin cancer. They're not getting diabetes. They don't have autoimmune issues. They don't have allergies. They don't even get cavities, and they don't brush their teeth. So they're doing something extremely different than what our modern world is, even though we're supposed to be in a world that's easier and more convenient and healthier. The United States is the largest consumer of pharmaceuticals, yet we rank like 48 or 49 in the world of health, longevity, and outcome. So a lot of the things we're doing are not working, even though we have industries like the sleep, exercise, and food industries that are multi-billion-dollar industries. And so there's a reason why they're still around. There's a reason why those are still being pumped into our heads. It's not that those three things aren't important for our bodies and for our health, but they're not the foundation. Light is at the foundation of all of those things. And if you don't have your light life right, you can't have an optimal health.
Do those cultures that you talked about, do they follow the circadian rhythm quite closely? Like, are they up at sunrise? Are they
Yeah.
do they take a break in midday and then kind of go to bed at sundown type thing? Like, or do they
Yeah.
follow that?
It would have been just like our ancestors, and even really our even most close ancestors that were already developing America. Even when we lived in houses per se for the first time, we were still only using candles and fire at night, which is like a red and infrared wavelength that doesn't affect our circadian rhythms. And even the first few light bulbs that were invented were incandescent bulbs, which also only give off a red and infrared wavelength. So those don't affect your circadian rhythm. Like the light that's on behind me has more of like an amber glow. That's an incandescent light bulb. And so they were already tied to that. If you think of our, maybe great grandparents or great great grandparents, they were farmers. So yeah, they were up when the sun rose. Obviously, they had to get out and work because of that, but they were up with sunrise outside working all day. You can even think that some of those ancestors smoked cigarettes all day long, but they never really got lung cancer. They never died of skin cancer. The sun is what kept their body vital and strong. There's a lot more things we have to worry about now. Of course, there's poison in the air and poison in the soil and poison in the water. Uh, but the sun can make your redox potential and your vitality in your body so strong that you can really handle a lot of things that you get inflicted with on a daily basis here in our modern world and come out okay. If my redox would have been high when I got the tick bite, I should have never come down with Lyme disease. So I've had more tick bites since then. And granted, there was like that tiny bit of like, oh my God, a tick bite. I never came down with Lyme disease again because my body has such a strong battery charge that it's able to just take that bacteria and boop, kick it right out. And so our body should be able to do that, even if it's inflicted with some toxins here and some toxins there. Those things need to be taken care of. But if we can get everybody living a healthier light life to start, we'll be able to handle a lot more and change more of those systems.
What's a healthy light life look like?
So a healthy light life, we're going to just jump right in. So the most important thing that you can do for your health above and beyond anything else, I mean anything, is seeing the sunrise first thing in the morning. It needs to be the first light that hits your eyes and your skin before any other light. So no artificial lighting from your phone, from a light bulb, your watch, a computer, TV, anything. The reasons behind this is we do have what's called circadian rhythms in our body. And so it's our natural rhythm throughout the day that all of our systems, your respiratory, cardiovascular, musculoskeletal, all of them, all run off of clocks. And we want our clocks running on time and efficiently, right? And so for our body to get those signals, they still receive those signals from the sun. They actually come through your eye, through your retina, to the suprachiasmatic nucleus. It's your master clock that sits in the brain behind the hypothalamus. It then takes that message from the sun and tells the rest of your body when to turn on cortisol, when to turn on blood sugar, or when to turn those things off when it's turning dark at night to start creating melatonin so that you can sleep well and run all of your regeneration programs, like getting rid of cancer cells, getting rid of toxic cells at night. So the way to do this is you need to start your clocks first thing in the morning with the sunrise. When the sun first comes up, you're just getting red and infrared light wavelengths. And so those are very healing wavelengths. They set your circadian clock for the day and they tell your body to start making cortisol, blood sugar, adrenaline. Once the sun gets to about 30 to 45 degrees in the sky, depending on where you live, you're going to start getting your UVA and UVB that comes in. Those are your blue, green wavelengths. If everybody remembers from like biology school, the Roy G. Biv, that's your rainbow. That's your natural spectrum of light that our body's still used to using for our signaling. Each one of those colors comes at you at a different wavelength. And each one of those frequencies of wavelengths has a different message for your body of things to do. And so when the UVA and the UVB start coming out later in the morning, it's going to tell your body to start making your sex hormones. It's going to start telling your gut to digest its food and have the microbiome build. How many people put their bellies out in the light in the middle of the day, every day of the year? Never happens. We have tons of people dealing with IBS and constipation and diarrhea and leaky gut. We have people dealing with lots of cognitive and mental health issues. Well, all of those dopamine, serotonin, tryptophan, all those amino acids and hormones that make you feel good about life, they all start in your gut. Your immune system starts in your gut. Your sex hormones start in your gut. Your microbiome starts in your gut. And it never sees the light of day, literally. And so if you're getting that through the day, you're going to be able to turn all of those signals on to work and function appropriately. Same thing goes for the sunset. You're going to just get red and infrared light wavelengths. So that's going to be very healing to help heal your skin from the strong UV rays that we're on during the middle of the day. And it's also going to tell your body, hey, it's almost nighttime. We need to turn off cortisol, blood sugar, adrenaline, and we need to start calming the body down to release melatonin, which is the hormone that helps you feel sleepy. It also helps trigger all of those programs that while we sleep, you get rid of your toxins, you detox, you get rid of your cancer cells, you sleep well, you anti-age. We're not doing any of that anymore because we're staying up late at night, we're eating late at night, and we're surrounded by artificial light at night. And so the two rules mainly, if everybody could even just switch these two things for an optimal light life, it would be to see the sunrise first thing in the morning before any other light, and then make sure that your nights are very dark like they're supposed to be. So obviously right now talking to you guys, I have overhead lights on for the video, but I have blue blocking glasses on. And typically if it was nighttime right now, I wouldn't have that light on and I would just have maybe my incandescent bulb or a fire going or candles, or like I have a red headlamp or I have a red party light bulb that I might have on for reading or working on the computer. And those are the ways that you biohack it, because obviously we can't get away from our modern world of computers and phones and all of that. And that's what's going to help protect your circadian rhythm, because when we look at these tech screens at night, our tech screens and LED lights and fluorescent light bulbs only emit a blue light wavelength. The way that works is during the day out in nature, we get blue light. That's where your UVB and your UVA comes in. But in nature, you have blue light with the rest of the rainbow that we just talked about. So you have your red and your orange and your yellow that's also protecting your eyesight and your skin with that blue and green. We never have blue light by itself. Tanning beds are blue light by itself. LED fluorescent light bulbs and your tech screens are blue light by itself. So basically what's happening in your clocks is at night, when it's 8 o'clock at night, if you're looking at a blue light screen, you're telling your body that it's noon instead of 8 o'clock. And what happens in the body is that keeps your cortisol risen. So then that's where you can gain weight. Your anxiety would stay up. For people that like wake up with anxiety, it's because your cortisol is still risen. You're not able to turn off your hormones. So all of those are driving way up and getting out of control. Your blood sugar stays up. So we're seeing more and more people diagnosed with diabetes and pre-diabetics. And they could even like look healthy. They don't have to be 200 pounds overweight. They could be eating a healthy diet. You could have had a salad or a donut for dinner, and it doesn't matter. If you're looking at blue lights, you're going to raise your blood sugar no matter what you've eaten. So that's huge and important. We're also seeing huge rises in cancer. Well, if your body can't run its dishwasher at night to like clean its cells, get rid of cancer, then you're getting all that toxic sludge stuck in your body because your body can't get it out. Because you just told your body it's 12 o'clock instead of releasing melatonin. People can't sleep. We have insomniac problems. Sleeping pills are like a huge purchase now in America. So sorry, that was a little bit of a ramble to the question, but that's kind of how it works in switching over to a healthier light life. There's kind of some nuances there, especially with getting more sun. People are going to ask questions about, cancer and sunburning. Our bodies actually come with a natural process of being able to make its own natural SPF in your skin. It's called a solar callus. When we get up and we see just the red and infrared wavelengths in the morning, that red and infrared wavelengths are what's going to help your body build its own solar callus. It's basically a natural SPF from melanin in your skin cells that then protect it from when that UVA and UVB comes out in the middle of the day, you don't burn. And you're able to get all the health benefits of the UVA and UVB, which make vitamin D, make your sex hormones, help your immune system and your gut. And then in the afternoon, that red and infrared wavelength as well helps kind of like heal that tissue from being out in that bright sunlight. And then you go into your dark period at night.
So what if you have like a west facing apartment balcony? Does it have to be like the actual sunrise? Do you have to like go down and see the sunrise, or just the sunrise light that's ambient? Is that good enough?
So that's a really popular question. I live somewhere in the country too with trees, so I don't always get like a horizon shot of the sunrise. Granted, if you've got a place like down the road or something for the weekends, yeah, go and take advantage of that because it's beautiful. But the great thing about light is photons expand enormously. Like if you think about being in a dark bedroom with the door shut, but the hallway light is on, you can still see that light kind of coming through the crack of your door, right? So the photons expand enormously. So just being out in that light and your eyes and skin receiving it, they're way smarter than like we think we are. And so it notices those signals immediately from the light. And so just being out in it will already trigger that circadian clock to start.
What
I
about
went,
just like having the blind open so that you wake up to that light, or do you have to be outside?
So you have to be outside or your
what if the window's open?
If the window is open, that is okay. It's not as optimal because you really do need to have this stuff on your skin. Your skin is a solar panel as well. But yes, sometimes there's rainy days. Sometimes we're in a rush. If you can at least have the windows open, you are going, like in your car, you got to take your kid to school or something one morning, open the sunroof, open the windows, you're still going to get that light. No sunglasses, no contacts. They block UV. Modern windows block infrared and red light because they're energy efficient. So windows, tech screens, sunglasses, it's all making us blue light toxic. It's literally the problem with all of the sickness right now in our modern era. Like every single modern disease is tied to mitochondrial dysfunction, and mitochondrial dysfunction comes from circadian clock dysfunction, and that comes from living an indoor artificially blue lit life.
So for the last few months, I was playing around with, in the morning, I would go to our enclosed balcony. So it's all glass, but I would try and leave some of those windows open.
Yes.
So no matter how cold it was, I'd just go out there first thing in the morning for 5 or 10 minutes and just soak up some fresh air, really. And hopefully the sun, I don't even think the sun was always coming up because, and we'll get into this, the different time zones and the different places that we live. But I started to wake up at sunrise now all the time. Like now I wake up just before the sunrise.
Yes.
It's like it is really like clockwork. So I think that just that little experimenting there with a few minutes every day in the morning.
That's such a great share. And it really shows how quickly our body wants to heal if we give it the correct environment. It doesn't take very long. There's even research now, like if you go camping for like 4 or 5 days, it's enough time to literally reset your clock. So even though I had been living 2 decades of really bad light life, it didn't take that long for the body to really start hitting those clocks right and getting on time and it becoming an easy habit. There's so many people that will come to me and say, oh, but I'm a night owl. I can't ever get up in the morning. I get that. I was never seeing the sunrise either. Now it's my favorite time of the day. My body wakes up before an alarm clock. I'm hungry now in the morning. That was one of my biggest changes that happened very quickly when trying like a better light life protocol. I was the girl that was never hungry in the morning my whole life, but I was never seeing the sunrise either. And so when I started this whole thing, I was like, okay, I'm going to wake up in the morning and take my dogs for a walk every morning for sunrise. I'm going to give it 30 days and just see what happens. You know, I had already been spending $5,000 a year out of my pocket for supplements and vitamins and this gym thing and that gym thing and all the stuff that we spend money on to try to be healthier. I said, screw it. Let me try this light thing. And the very first thing I definitely noticed was it was very quick to get into the habit. After about 5 to 10 days, it was easy to get up and do it. And then within a month, my stomach was growling after I would get up. And it has been like that since. And that was my first thing, like, okay, there's probably something to this. Like something is sending the signal to my body to get hungry and start my day like I'm supposed to. And that has never changed since.
So I think what Darren was getting at, and I was kind of going to ask the same question, is when you're, let's say we're in bed getting up in the morning, or we're waking up and it's starting to get light out, but the sun hasn't technically risen yet. So there's about a half hour, 20 minutes or a half hour where you can start seeing the light, but the sun hasn't really come up yet.
Yeah.
So if our windows are open, not all the way, but enough that air and I guess some light is getting in, and you're waking up at least at that time in the bedroom.
Yeah.
And then if you make your way downstairs or whatever or outside.
Yes.
To get a more direct, not necessarily direct sun, but at least direct light.
Yes.
On your skin without turning any other lights on. But yes. It still starts from when you wake up in bed, I guess, if it's getting light, right?
Yes, you're safe with all of that, just as long as you're not blaring blue light into your eyes that will instantly tell it's noon instead of 7 o'clock in the morning. You're safe there. I do have some people that will ask me, like I have some horse clients that are up way before sunrise, so it's still dark. What can they do? Red light will still always help you not break your circadian rhythm. So if you can have the incandescent bulbs on or a red light on or a headlamp, something like that. It sounds silly and inconvenient, but you get used to it pretty easy living in the dark in a way. And then, yeah, any of that light, even before the sun has really crested the horizon, is all healthy red and infrared light that your body is getting and getting those signals to start your day.
And you're shutting down at night when it gets dark, basically, right? Like well, as soon as the sun goes down, there's about a half hour after that, I guess, and then it starts to get dark, and that's where you try and get rid of all your artificial light.
Yes, you want to mitigate your artificial light as much as possible. So blue light blocking glasses are great. I always tell people, because you're starting to see them being sold in like Walgreens and Walmart and stuff, but they have clear lenses. Those are bullshit. They don't work. So you'll still be getting a lot of blue light and ruining everything that you just did. So you need to make sure that the lenses are definitely orange or red to block out all of the blue and green wavelengths coming from tech screens. The laptops have a program you can buy called Iris, IRIS. And it will actually help the screen's temperature and color change throughout the day, that by nighttime, like now, which I have mine turned off right now just for this talk, but it would usually be red. So I wouldn't even have to wear these when working on the computer. All the smartphones actually have a shortcut built into them that you can change the screen to red for free with a shortcut. You just have to look that up on YouTube for like your.
I think it's night shift. I think it's called night shift or something. I'm not sure.
That one still lets blue light through.
Oh, does it?
Well, it's a hidden shortcut that you have to go in and program yourself. It's free, but you have to look it up on YouTube for like your specific phone model. I still have like an iPhone 8, so I have a home screen. So like I click my home screen 3 times and it goes red, and then I can click it 3 times again and it's back to regular blue. That's super helpful. So then you can just look at your phone at night without having to have glasses on either. The TV, you would either have to wear glasses, or I do know some people will buy that cheap red cellophane tape from like a hobby store or something, and you can put that across your screen. You can also use that cellophane tape to go across like your refrigerator light bulb in case you're going into your refrigerator at night. There's companies like Spectra 479 that sell red light night lights. And so I have those in my bathroom, so you don't ever have to turn on the light when you have to pee if you do get up in the middle of the night. Because any flash of fake light, your eyes register it faster than you know. And so you really don't want any of that on at night, even as a quick flicker.
They're different. We had a guest on and we were talking about these blue blocker glasses again. And there's different variations. Is there different variations of that? What's the brand you're wearing now?
The brand I'm wearing now is called Block Blue Light from Australia. They're one of my favorites. Most people have heard of Raw Optics. They're probably one of the first companies that came around. And then there's also Viva Rays.
That's the one. Those are the ones, yeah.
They're rowdy runs, Viva Rays. He's lovely. And yeah, he's come up with, number one, he has
different stages, right? Yeah.
Based ones, so you can actually get ones for like your prescription levels, but he also has different colors that you can click on for different times of the day. So like somebody that works in an office all day in a computer, they should really start protecting their eyes already. So they should have the yellow ones, because also if they were going to wear the orange or the red, they'd start getting tired in the middle of the day.
Yeah, because you need some blue light for energy, right? Still.
Exactly. But again, you don't want the blue light by itself. So then having that little bit of yellow helps shield and try to bring in some of the natural colors that you would have from outside. I always recommend anybody that works at an office, an indoor job at all, just like anybody would have a smoke break. This is how you make your light life better too. You just take light breaks. So every hour, hour and a half, go outside, no sunglasses, no sunscreen, no contacts. As much skin as you can expose as possible at that time, and sit outside for 10 to 15 minutes and then go back inside to your job, and do that every couple of hours throughout the day. You're going to have more energy. And it is also going to be able to keep those clock signals going throughout the day to keep everything in alignment.
Okay. Before I forget to ask you, what's that clothing brand that's kind of like the sun gets through, right? So you can kind of go out in the morning, maybe like, and it's like you're naked, but you're covered up. So
yes. So it's a bathing suit company called Kiniki, Kiniki. They're not the most like aesthetically pleasing swimsuits, but they're cheap, and to just use them to tan in your backyard if you don't have like land like I do, so you can't be naked. They're very popular and very good to get. And it's very important for people to realize that your private parts do need to see the sun. That's actually how you prevent breast cancer, testicular cancer, prostate cancer. A lot of those areas, just like our gut, are never seeing the sun, and cancer is a light deficiency problem.
So what about different parts of the world? Like, so where we live right now, the sun's rising at 6:47. It's setting at 8:24 at night already.
Yes.
So, but it goes down to in June, the sun rises at 5:21 in the morning, and it sets at 9:55. So,
Yeah.
so I mean, we're already stuck. Like by the time it gets dark, it's 10:30, let's say, or even it feels later, even Darren, like 11 sometimes. And
Wow.
then it seems to get light at 5. So I mean, what do we do in that instance where like for that couple months of the year, it's almost it's hard to sleep. It's hard to get to sleep
Yes.
because it stays light for so long. And then you're up sort of
Right.
anyways
Yes.
because it gets light so early. And then in the winter, the sun rises at 8:39 and it sets at 4:30. So then we're on the opposite thing where it's dark by 5 o'clock.
Yes. So it almost opens up the topic of like, in
Why
our
do we live in the north?
no, not that anybody can live where they want to live per se. But as far as like our modern life of always being like on the go, rush, everything has to be the same all the time, go, go, go. And when we really slow it down and look at light and nature does everything perfect, right? There are no errors in nature. And so she goes through cycles and seasons, as we should as well. And women might understand this a little bit better because we go through cycles and seasons monthly. But it's the same thing. Like in the summer, we're going to have an abundance of energy because we have longer days and longer light cycles. We can eat more carbs. We can have more sugar. We can digest all of that more. We should have more energy. And so you should almost feel that on a regular basis in the summer. Now, if you are struggling to want to get that sleep and still sleep a little bit more, then I would just recommend coming in and just trying to make things as dark as possible for you to go to bed a little earlier than, 11 o'clock if you're wanting to try to get some good hours of sleep in. You can get blackout shades or curtains, start wearing your blue blocking glasses at maybe like 7 if you're already done eating. And those things will all start to kind of trigger your body to start coming down. But then in the winter, we need to recognize that we're not going to have as much energy. And it's actually a time of resting and hibernation. You might be fasting more. You might only eat meats and fats then because there wouldn't be as much growing if we were actually living outside still like our ancestors did. And you would just be resting more. So you go to bed like, gosh, these last 2 winters, I was going to bed at like 8 o'clock. And I remember the old me that was rush, like 8 o'clock, like I got stuff to do and I got to be productive. And these last 2 years were great to just surrender and accept wintertime and sleep and just catch up on all of that regeneration and rest so that then when spring and summer's hitting, like we are ready and rocking, ready to go.
I feel like we don't need as much food in the summer though, for some reason. Like, do you know how sometimes when you're out in the sun all day, you're not really that hungry? Like you come home and you're not that hungry. So does that kind of replace some of the diet though?
Yes. I don't know if you guys have heard that there's actually people, I
Oh
think
yeah.
in India, but like breatharians.
Oh yeah.
I haven't
Breatharians. Yeah.
researched it a ton, but it comes up, and I actually had somebody on a podcast asking about it too. And I was like, well, now that I know what I know about the sun, I believe that it's possible. I would miss food way too much. I couldn't become a breatharian, but I can see how it's possible. The sun is actually a nutrient, and that's where we take full advantage of the fact that in our modern times, we just see the sun as like a light source, maybe associated with vitamin D, but we also associate it with cancer and bad things, and that's it. And the sun is actually the most powerful and free nutrient that is there for us on a daily basis, providing us with so much of what we need. So yeah, like days when I'm at the beach, I'm not ever usually very hungry, at least during the time that I'm out in the sun, because the sun is already providing me with so much of the nutrients that my body needs to fill me up that I don't need anything else. But in the summertime, our bodies are capable and allowed to have more sugars and carbs. That is what would grow seasonally in most of our areas. But up north or Canada or something, should they be eating bananas in December, especially if they're like African American or Latino, probably not. That's going to be a circadian mismatch. I know that sounds kind of crazy. And maybe one banana in the winter is not going to hurt you. But if you're sick and you have a diagnosis, it's probably not a good idea.
So black people shouldn't eat bananas in the winter in
Probably.
Canada, but just
Yeah.
in Canada? It's okay if
No,
you're
no,
in
like, if you just
at
go
the
back to, like, the
equator?
light story, like, their DNA, their genetics are still tied to being closer to the equator. They don't live close to the equator anymore. So these people that have darker colored skin, they need more sun. They already actually have a thicker solar callus naturally that protects them because their ancestors lived closer to the equator, and their genetics are still tied to that. So technically, all of us should still be eating like a seasonal light diet as well. What does that mean? It means we should be eating before it gets dark. We should be eating whatever seasonal in our like tri-state area of where we live of what would grow during that time. Well, in the winter, not much grows anywhere except for at the equator. So it's just nice. That's an additional thing that once you get your light life right, that will also kind of help sync up gut clocks and your circadian internal clocks as well. So again, I mean, is a banana going to kill a black person in Canada in December? No. But if they're sick with a diagnosis and it's something they're having on a regular basis, it might be something that they want to check into changing to a more like low carb, high fat in the winter and more abundance in the summer.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, they should probably be taking vitamin D and stuff too, but that kind of talk is racist in 2023. But I was just saying, I can't remember if it was on the show or just in real life or maybe the two are merging. But that like when I was a kid, I didn't see an avocado until I was like a teenager,
Yeah.
like it's just because I didn't go to Mexico and I grew up in northern Ontario in the middle of nowhere. We didn't have a bunch of
Yeah.
grocery stores and shit. Now, if you were in Vancouver, Calgary, maybe you had avocados when you were a kid, but we didn't have that kind of stuff. We had apples and we did have bananas and stuff like that. We were getting bananas at that time. We always had the horror stories of people getting snakes or spiders in their banana box. But I think that's because bananas like keep for a long time. Bananas are pretty easy to ship. You can ship them while they're still green or
Yeah.
however that works. But we weren't getting like pomegranates or dragon fruits or any of this stuff that like
Huh.
I see when I go into the grocery store nowadays. Half that shit wasn't an option when I was a kid because all of our shit came from the next province over.
Yes. Which is the way that it, should have been and should still be keeping it. Um, it's interesting that you bring up both of those terminologies of racism and the taking the vitamin D. On podcasts, I know we're allowed to say this, but sometimes at the end of my talks, when I have them in person, depending on my audience, at the end, I always talk about like the future of how our kids and how people could be changing things in our light life with hospitals, schools, that all of those are artificially lit by LEDs that flicker and cause all kinds of issues, and we could be changing these things. This is how we change the future. We can't vote it in or out. Like we have to do it, and that's where we have to put our money. And so I always ask everybody, like, how quickly could we get rid of racism if we were teaching kids that skin color is a light story? Like these people literally just need more sun, and their genetics are tied to having more sun, living closer to the equator. Um, it could really help. I know that's kind of a wild statement out there. And then as far as the vitamin D, it's actually kind of in our quantum field, we don't actually recommend dosing vitamin D.
I wanted to ask you about that because we are I wanted to ask you about the
Anybody?
vitamin D, but our doctors, like, they won't test for that vitamin D right now in Alberta. They
Oh,
tell us that we already tell you, and I don't know how they are supposed to communicate this to the public because they don't. But you're supposed to take, I think it's 2,000 IU's or whatever it is for vitamin D per day. I think. Hey, Darren, do you know if that's what it was?
I don't know. I know
So
I take a lot.
yeah, but we both take some of Clive DeCarle's vitamin D from the UK. It's really good, and but I also hear that takes a long time to get into your system. But I also hear that sun doesn't really do it either. So I've heard the other side of the story where, oh, you can go outside for this many times. We've done these studies and it doesn't raise your vitamin D. So
okay. Well, let's shift some facts and truths here. And there's still research being done on it, so there's still a lot more to find out. But this is what we have learned so far. I don't know who was allowed to call vitamin D a vitamin D back whenever they were naming these things. But just like melatonin, just like testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, vitamin D is actually a hormone. So when we go back to what we were talking about with hormone replacement and all of that, where if most people, if doctors came to you guys right now, you seem rather healthy and said, we want to put you on hormone replacement, you would probably be like, why? Let's do some testing. I'm a little bit, inhibited about that decision. Vitamin D is the same. It's a hormone. So when you start taking a vitamin D supplement, you're actually taking hormone replacement. And that can cause a lot of mismatch in the body and some miscommunication. In addition to that, our body naturally makes like 25 different variables of vitamin D. So, how do you know that the vitamin D supplement you're getting is whatever variable that your body needs at that day, at that time, at that moment, that it doesn't need the next day because it needs a different variable at that day, at that time, at that moment? Number 3, most supplements in general, including your vitamin D supplements, are made in a laboratory. So they're made under artificial light, processed with heat. So they're not very effective at all. And the supplement business is a multi-billion-dollar business. Number 4, the sun does make your vitamin D. However, you need to be out during the UVB hours of the day to be able to make the vitamin D. Number 2, you also have to have cholesterol in your body to be able to make vitamin D. So, like, I don't mean to pick on them, but like vegans, for example, if they don't have cholesterol in their system.
We like picking on vegans around here. It's fine. I've yet to meet a third generation vegan. I mean, Graham says there's some over
maybe at the equator. Like,
but
vegans can do okay at the equator. Asterisks, like,
for the record, I think that breatharian stuff is bullshit too. The only people I ever met that said they were doing it were batshit crazy.
yeah. Well, people like to attach to things and just prove people.
No offense to anyone who's living off the sun, but I bet you there's no third generations of those kicking around either.
I'm living off the sun, but let me tell you, the sun also feeds the cow that I eat, and the sun also feeds the arugula that I eat, and the sun also feeds the apples that I eat. So I'm living off the sun, but I'm still eating. But I'm eating the things that grow out in the sun and also get the sun story. So you have to have cholesterol in your body to be able to make vitamin D. And so if you look at like our number one killer in the United States is heart disease, right? And everybody blames that on cholesterol, which they've probably proven a lot of times that these people have cholesterol in their systems, right? But if we think about modern humans, that now statistics say we're spending more than 93% of our time indoors, where's that cholesterol going that you're eating? It's just getting stuck in your body because you're not detoxing it at night, and you're also not going out during the day and allowing the sun to turn that cholesterol in your veins into vitamin D. So that's kind of the component there where they might be able to tell you that from Big Pharma or whatever studies, but if they haven't tested to see what those people's cholesterol levels are, and now everybody's fighting for low cholesterol levels, and your big pharma companies are able to pay for the studies to get the normal ranges lowered. Like, I think they want everybody under 200, nanometers or whatever of your cholesterol levels. And like for women, if you're under 200, your sex hormones and your hormones will just stop functioning. Like, you will go into premenopausal early.
Yeah, that's part of the plan.
Yeah, it's a
Totally
problem. So that's kind of the story there with like vitamin D supplementing, making it in the sun. There's still a lot of research happening kind of like low key, obviously, not through Big Pharma or anything. But yeah, the sun can do it, but you have to be out in the UVB light to get the signal, and you have to have cholesterol in your system to also actually make the conversion.
And I think it's like you're meant to be out in the sun like all fucking day, like sun up to sundown, not like, ooh, I was out for 45 minutes or I went for 2 hours. Why ain't I getting any vitamin D? It's got to be like straight up. I mean, I'm an Indian, so I got to like save that shit up all summer, so I got enough to get me through the winter.
And that's the whole point too, right? People are like, oh, but my vitamin D is so low in the winter. Well, guess what your body does? You build it up all summer and fall so that way your body can use those storage levels to use it to get you through the winter. So of course your levels are going to be low in the winter. And then they hop everybody up on supplements.
So 30 degrees, like that's when the UVB starts. So if you put your arm straight up to the sky, and then you went down 2/3, right? You're at 30 degrees.
Oh, buddy.
Yeah, I was like, man, you're getting real geometrical there now. I have an app that well, I know now because you can feel it, and I've been doing this long enough. But for everybody out there that's
That's
not
look like a Nazi.
It's
there,
kind of like the salute, right? The salute
yeah,
would be at like 30 degrees, right? I think.
999.
fine. Yeah.
Ezekiel.
There's an app called D-Minder,
Mhm.
Minder. It's free on all the smartphones, and it will help you tell you wherever you are at the time. So whether you're traveling or at home, where the sun is going to rise, what time, and then when it's going to hit that 30-degree mark to start making vitamin D. It'll show you all the time it goes to, and then when it's going to set below that. So it'll just help you realize like when you can be in the red and infrared to start building your solar callus. Now for spring is the time to start this. And then you can measure how much you can be out with the UVB. If you're very fair skinned or you're just starting this, you're not going to be able to hang out in the UVB light all day naked. You're going to burn and you're going to cause damage. And that's where people get this problem with thinking the sun causes skin cancer, is because they don't see the sun all year and all day. And they go to the beach for a week and like burn the shit out of their body. And this isn't what's supposed to happen. And on that topic, there's an old study that was done in the 30s, one study on UVB, and we can kind of tear that study apart because number one, they did the study in a laboratory, right? So it was under artificial lighting. It wasn't outside. And most of our medical studies anyways are all done indoors. So they never consider the natural spectrum and the signals that affect our body physiologically. So the study was done indoors. It was also done on mice, which is typical for studies. Well, mice are nocturnal. We're a diurnal species that work off of a 24-hour light and dark cycle. And they only use UVB lamps. So it was basically like taking a tanning bed and shining it on the rats. And then when all these tumors started popping up, they went, oh, the sun causes skin cancer. But they didn't have all the rest of the wavelengths with them like we would have out in natural light. And then that was the one study that basically said, okay, sun is bad for
Wow.
you.
Wow.
At that same time is when our Mr. Beloved John D. Rockefeller was coming out with the Flexner report, which I'm sure you guys know about, that
Uncle
happened in the
Johnny.
30s. And they lobbied for all natural and holistic care to be considered woo-woo and crackery. And, he needed to make his petroleum into pharmaceuticals and take over the medical industry and start opening hospitals and medical schools and paying for the studies. Well, guess what else he used his petroleum for? Guess what the number one ingredient is in sunscreen? Petroleum. And I think like 78 different sunscreens just got recalled in the last 2 to 3 years during COVID because they have too high levels of carcinogenic ingredients. And, if people are spending 93% of their time indoors, but yet skin cancer is on the rise, how does that equate to the sun causes it? Most melanoma spots show up on people on areas that the sun has never seen, on the breast, on the chest, on men's legs who are always covered in pants. So it doesn't make sense. And we have to start questioning that and start thinking of it differently.
Shorts are gay. We got to get off of that mentality. We got
Yeah,
to make
gotta get
shorts
naked.
not gay again.
No, she's saying like get the shorts on. Like
I know what she's saying. That's what I mean. We got to make shorts not gay again. Like purses. Graham's up trying to bring both back. Single.
I don't wear pants like 6 months of the year, 7 months of the
I
year.
know Giger's wearing shorts all the time. I'm a pants guy. I can't do it, but I will take my shirt off. When I'm out and about. So
Yeah.
I make up for it there.
And it's
But
really
so I mean, I can't get off my vitamin D supplement though. I was off it for a few weeks and I noticed a real change. It's the only supplement I've ever really noticed. Like, they say this and that, it's doing this, it's doing that. Honestly, I don't take most of my shit because I don't notice a difference when I'm on it, when I'm off it.
Yeah.
But the liver pills, I notice a big difference.
Yeah. I just eat raw liver.
But the vitamin D, I noticed after about 2 weeks of being off of that, yeah, I was having trouble with my mood. I was grumpy. I was like, what the fuck is going on?
It's
And
because
sure enough,
it's
after a while of getting back onto it, I was, and I noticed on the jar, it says the happiness hormone.
yeah. Yep. The sunshine will definitely bring you all those things. The sunshine releases and opens our endocannabinoid receptors, so you can literally become high on life. I'm one of those people now. I used to think those people were full of shit. but it does, like nature and the sun and life just resets you. And for you guys being so far up north, obviously like during the winter you don't have any UV. With me in Louisiana, we still actually make UV year round. It's just a smaller window in the winter, so we're fortunate there. In people that live in colder climates where there isn't as much UV, number one, it's very important for you to get as much sun as possible through spring, summer, and fall. But you guys are also able to use cold therapy, which also heals and strengthens your mitochondria. And this is a problem all over the world, in the United States for sure. But most people are so used to just being in a constant 72, 75-degree temperature in their house, whether it's winter or summer, and also in their car. Our bodies, as well as it's supposed to be tied to the light and dark cycle, it's also supposed to be tied to
Hot and cold.
the different effects of the weather. And so that is what makes our mitochondria strong. So even though you guys might be like, well, damn it, I don't get like sun through the winter and all the UV, you can use cold therapy, which is not always super fun, but depending on what your genetics and where you came from, sometimes you can handle a lot better than others. And you can use that cold exposure to also strengthen your body.
So is there any studies that show that health outcomes are different in different parts of the world, like closer to the equator, where there's more of sort of a equal parts dark and light, or in northern parts where it's shorter and longer?
Yeah,
It definitely seems to be a different economic outcome.
yeah, I mean, economics can definitely always play a role, but everybody can get outside. But there's definitely researches like that. They show, a lot of the like blue zones that used to be studied and show that people are living into their hundreds or more. A lot of them are much closer to the equator for most of those areas. But you can even look at like the, oh man, what is their name? They live
The Basque?
Arctic. They're kind of a tribal people still as well. Oh, Jack Cruz actually just said them on a podcast last week. It's not the emus, but it's
The Eskimos?
yeah, but there's another name for their actual.
Inuit?
Yes, thank you. So they don't get a lot of sun per se for their environment, but they're out in the cold. They're living outside, but guess what they're getting lots of? DHA from seafood.
Fat.
Yes, and DHA from seafood. And so
That's what I've been saying. See, for like 10 years ago, I was saying if you started feeding some Mexican dude what the Inuits are eating is not going to go well. And people are like, whoa.
Whoa. Yeah. But they do great. They hold on to that extra fat, which gives them energy. The DHA is a fat that comes from our shellfish, so like oysters, shrimp, crab, lobster. And it's the only fat that's in our food system that creates an electrical current in our bodies. And we're electrical beings actually before we're chemical beings. And so, we're just one big solar panel. We're one big complicated plant, basically. We use the sun just like plants do to create energy. And so the DHA is one of those nice keys that you can help keeping your current, your timing, all of that like flowing well, especially if you do live somewhere in the winter where you're not getting a lot of the UVB rays.
I think I was following when I was following Jack Cruz in maybe like 2018, maybe 2019. He was talking about the DHA quite a bit, and the nicotinamide riboside, the precursor to NAD. Was that Jack that was talking about that? Do you take that at all?
I did.
Have you tried that?
I haven't tried it like heavily. Ever since I got on the light train, I was super happy to clear my countertop of lots of expensive supplements. So the only thing that I actually take constantly at the moment is magnesium and electrolytes. And I make sure that I have structured water that I'm drinking. So I get Mountain Valley spring water delivered to my house. If I didn't have that, like if I lived in the city, I would definitely make sure you're getting some type of sorry guys, it's nighttime.
No.
The water system that takes everything out starts with an O.
Osmosis, reverse osmosis. Yeah.
Reverse osmosis. So it takes everything out. But since it takes everything out, meaning the bad stuff like fluoride, chlorine, the chemicals that they put in your water for city water, it also takes all of your minerals out. So it's just like a very flat, clean water, but you still want your water to be structured to be giving you the right connection electricity wise in your body. And so you would want to be taking like a quinton, which I take those minerals sometimes too, or finding a way to add in the minerals into your water to have structured water.
How do you restructure yours?
I just have the Mountain Valley spring water delivered, so it's already structured water. But
Okay.
I do supplement water sometimes with the Quinton minerals, and it's a sea mineral that has like everything that your cell needs mineral wise. So it's really great too. But
Do you
those are
have
the only
anything?
things I take on a regular basis.
Do you have anything in your slides that you think we've haven't got to yet?
I gotta let me throw through here real quick. Let's see. I don't know if they would care too much about the actual quantum health model.
And how much time do you need in the midday sun to start absorbing vitamin D? Like, is a half hour, 45? I know you're saying like as much as possible, but for people that work at home and
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to fit like outdoor, like when you're most of your stuff is indoors, it's hard to get outside to
Yeah.
take breaks and do that. So
All of us are N equals 1, so we're our own science project and own symptoms and effects. So it's going to be different for everybody. I highly recommend at least 15 to 20 minutes every time. So for sunrise, sunset, a couple times during the day. If you're sick and you have a diagnosis, you are going to need more sun. And it's going to have to be something that you schedule into your life because your health is the most important thing that you have. And really in life, it just becomes like anything that you're doing, can you do it outside? If you're reading a book, can you do it outside? If you're working on your computer, can you do it outside? If you're eating lunch, breakfast, or dinner, can you do it outside? If you're drinking coffee, can you do it outside? Almost everything now is outside for me. At the same time, which something we haven't covered is like grounding, being barefoot outside on the grass as well. You're getting free electrons and free energy when you do that, as well as from the sun. So if you can try to be barefoot as much as possible as well, it's really great for even just your biomechanics in your body, but it's really great to get free energy from as well. So in the morning, I'm always outside barefoot, seeing the sunrise, walking the dogs. If I'm reading a book, I now have my computer where it's hardwired with like 100-foot cable to the modem, and I take that outside and work outside on the computer. Reading, eating, anytime like that, I just try to take full advantage of getting extra energy and extra sun. And so once you can kind of get into that mentality, it seems like a lot at first and overwhelming to learn new protocols, but you just start seeing light in everything. And whenever you can get that opportunity to do that, you try and you really do start to enjoy it more and crave it more.
can you ground through stones like slate and different
Yep.
rocks? Yeah.
The only thing you really can't ground through is asphalt or cement. If your wood is treated, sometimes there's some variants there that you
Yeah.
can't, but I think you're probably all right. But asphalt and cement for sure you cannot ground through. But everything else is free game.
Why not cement? It seems like it'd be good. It's like it's all earth and
I don't know. I think there's a lot of chemicals now with cement, and so you're going to be absorbing probably some of that.
I would have thought cement was like pretty close to like a stone,
Yeah.
You just add water. Probably some other stuff. But
There's some other
definitely
stuff.
a lot of water.
I got a cement burn last fall, and there's a spot on my leg that's still pretty nasty and gnarly from it. And when I Googled it, it's all this stuff like you can end up in the hospital and toxic from it and everything. Like there's some bad stuff.
Like a rash, like a skid mark.
Yeah.
A skid
I
mark?
healed it with red light though. Put my red light on it and it healed up real quick.
Nice.
Yeah.
Graham's got a red lighter.
Yeah, I got a red light too. Yeah.
Oh, I thought he said red lighter. I was like a lighter that you light things with. What else?
I was starting to red light my junk recently for a few minutes in the morning.
Good.
You quit?
Well, I'm just trying to get into the habit of it. It's hard to remember.
Yeah, keep doing that though. That's good for you.
There you go. I just like to lie on my back in the window.
There you go.
Sun it like that. Jackie, is there anything you feel like we didn't get to? Any last advice or?
Do you guys want to touch some on like the Wi-Fi cell phone radiation stuff? Do we have time for that?
Sure.
That's part of light life as well. We didn't really cover like the science, and obviously we can talk about where they can resource a lot more of my information at the end. But when we do talk about how light affects us as a whole, a lot of it is stuff that we can't see. You know, we can't see that full natural spectrum with our eyes. We only see about 30% of it. So there are things in our world that do affect us physiologically that we can't always see or feel. You know, if you think about getting like an X-ray, for example, you don't feel that X-ray being taken, but you are getting hit with radiation waves that are going to affect your body physically, right? If you got X-rays every single day, you're probably going to get sick from them. And we have seen that with X-ray technicians and things. So on that topic, obviously, as modern Americans, we're getting bombarded by a lot of radiation and wavelengths that are very strong and not naturally made that our body's used to. When we just talked about grounding, the earth itself provides its own frequency called the Schumann's resonance. It runs at like 7.83 hertz. That's a very healing frequency. It's a very low frequency compared to like what our cell phones are and cell phone towers and Wi-Fi signals nowadays. They're in like the megahertz range, like billions and billions of times stronger than what the Earth is. And so what that does to our body is it actually dehydrates our mitochondria and brings our redox down very low. So when we have our cell phones on our bodies or next to our ears, which is next to our brains, that's a lot of radiation to an area that is made up of all water and fat that we eventually dehydrate. And we're seeing huge increases of glaucomas and blastomas that are cancer cells that kill you. And so we need to make sure that we're protecting our bodies, our children from these radiation signals from our cell phones, anything that's Wi-Fi or Bluetooth technology. So if you think of like the AirPods that go in our ears, those are right next to your brain as well, running off of Bluetooth technology. So for me, like a couple of things that I do to biohack all of that, because obviously, again, we're not going to get rid of the modern world. I do not have my Wi-Fi modem plugged in unless I'm using it. So at night, for sure, I always have it off to be able to sleep. I only plug it in when I use it. Like I said, my laptop right now is actually hardwired with a USB cable to the modem. It actually makes my internet faster, but it also protects from the actual Wi-Fi signal because that's turned off of my laptop now. I have a grounding platform that my laptop is sitting on from Defender Shield. My cell phone has a case on it that's a protector from Defender Shield. I never put it in my back pocket anymore. That's something that I had in previous years of getting Lyme. I had it in my back pocket all day, every day. No Wi-Fi, no Bluetooth products. If you do, you need to get protection for those as well. A lot of the newer houses are being built with smart meters. So that's your electric meter that is now digital and Wi-Fi. Those things are putting off really huge non-native electromagnetic fields that can affect people. What else?
I bought some. I was trying to get off the earbuds, right?
Mm.
So I've got a decent cord set again, but I bought one of the cord sets to try and get away from it, and it connects on Bluetooth. I'm like, it's plugged into the thing.
Yeah.
And it still goes Bluetooth. I'm like, why would you make a corded one that goes Bluetooth? Like, what it just defeats the purpose. So it's hard to even find like legit just corded headphones nowadays.
Defender Shield sells a pair. They're really great. And then I actually just use the cheapies that come with the iPhone. They're not the most comfortable, but I don't wear them all the time.
No, they're pretty good compared to a lot of the other sets.
Yeah, so I just use those. But Defender Shield has a pair too that actually has some type of like air vac thing too that's supposed to be healthier for you. They're like $80 for the pair, but they're good. They're comfy.
If they feel comfortable, then yeah, I'm gonna look that up. Defender Shield.
Yeah, and they've got all kinds of great. Like that's basically who I use for all of my protection products. They're well researched and they've been around for a long time. I like the quality of their products. You know, I have the laptop platform. I have the protection over my phone. The earbuds, they even have like silver gloves that you can wear if you're a very highly sensitive person. You can wear that to protect kind of hands and skin when you're touching your phone a lot too. But that's all good stuff to know too and be aware of, especially for kids. Our nerves in our brain are protected by something called myelin. It's a sheath that goes around our nerves in our brain to protect it. It's only made up of fat and water as well. So our kids need to be eating those things. But our kids are not fully myelinated until they're 25. And so they actually get a much stronger effect from radiation and Wi-Fi signaling than the adults do. And obviously we see in our lifestyle and our community right now where kids are surrounded by this stuff, but yet they get, diagnosed with ADHD and put on pills, and depression rates have increased like 6-fold between ages 6 to 12. Like that's just completely unnecessary. and
What about
sad.
all the gender switching? You think that plays a role in that too?
Yeah, because so our mitochondria, which we didn't get into that science part, but that's actually what is signaling our genes to turn on and off. So all of our sicknesses don't actually have to do so much with our genes as they do our mitochondria. And so we get our mitochondrial genes from our maternal line. If you are considering or concerned about certain genes in a family, you need to look at your maternal line. But each one of our generations now are having weaker mitochondria. So we're breeding weaker mitochondria children. And now they're also living in a world where it's artificially lit with a lot of radiation and Wi Fi. And so it doesn't surprise me at all that the body is very confused or doesn't have the full testosterone it should have or the full estrogen that it should have, because we are breeding weaker human beings. Look at the boys that exist, like, not to have like a masculine prototype or
Soy
anything,
boys?
but like they're very skinny, they're very tiny, they're shorter. I mean, you can look at all the generations of when we came from like Neanderthals, with big heads and big jaws and big bodies, and they're not being built like that anymore. I saw a teenager the other day that they were so white. I thought I could almost see through them. Like they were almost translucent. And I was like, wow, I don't think I've ever seen that before. It's sad. It's a very, very sad state.
Can you just
Albinos.
describe one thing before we wrap it up? I think one of the most important parts that I've heard you talk about is how that morning, that most important thing in the morning, seeing the sunrise, seeing the sunset,
Yes.
how it triggers mechanisms in your body.
Yes.
Like how it, can you explain that again
Oh, how
once
that
more
actually
just before?
works?
Yeah, how that
Yeah.
actually works.
Yeah. So again, our bodies are one big solar panel and works off of clocks. And so when we see that sunrise in the morning, no contacts, no sunglasses, that signal is going to come through our eye to the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is the master clock. That master clock is then going to send all the signals through your pineal gland to your thyroid. So how many issues do we have there in our modern world? And then from the thyroid, it's going to go down into all of your other systems, endocrine, respiratory, cardiovascular, reproductive, all of them, to work when they're supposed to. What's running those systems are your mitochondria, which I've kind of mentioned a couple times now, and that's just a bacteria that lives in our cells. If you go back to Biology 101 from middle school, they're the powerhouse of the cell. And besides just making our energy, they also make our water and our heat. We're 90% water in our body, and it's structured water, which just means that it's like a gel-like form, and it's very protective, and you want that water to be vast and a lot of it, and we're dehydrating it from our indoor world not getting the signals to work like it's supposed to. And so our body needs that signal first thing in the morning from the sunrise to get started and get ready for your day. Get those signals throughout the day as that natural light spectrum changes and crescendos and then comes down with UVA, then UVB, and then that disappears and you get your red and infrared at sunset. And then at sunset, that signal is going to then tell your body, okay, shut off the hormones and the insulin and the blood sugar and the cortisol and all the excitatory energy that you needed for the day to build a teepee or hunt a tiger or deal with traffic or stress or kids or whatever in our modern world. And now you need to release your melatonin. Everybody knows that melatonin is supposed to make you sleepy and go to bed, and you think you can just take it like a vitamin 2. It's a hormone. And we make our melatonin during the day with the sunlight. So if you're also not getting sun, you can't make melatonin to be able to get sleepy and run your regenerative programs at night. So you need the sun to be able to make all these programs to have everything running appropriately.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's really just the most important sort of 2-minute summary there. Thank you.
Without sunscreen.
Without sunscreen. So I like to say this analogy, especially now because like springtime is perfect. When you want to make a plant or a flower grow, what do you need? Like you put a seed or a sapling in the ground. What do you need? You need water, you need sunlight, and CO2, right? Because they use a process called photosynthesis to make the sugar to feed themselves through the sun, right? We're blooming and it's springtime and everything's blooming. Well, they need the sun and the water and the CO2. We're no different. We are 90% made of water. We still use respiration like CO2 to breathe with, to make glucose and sugar in our bodies to feed itself, breatharians. And we need those signals from the sun. What would happen if you put a tarp over a tree or a flower, it would die, right? What is sunscreen? What are clothes? What are sunglasses? They're putting a tarp. What is a building? We're putting tarps over our bodies, and we can't get the signaling that we need to be able to thrive and be vital and healthy for the rest of our lives.
There you have it. Jackie, Jolie, this has been great. Where can our listeners find more of your stuff? They're on any social media they can follow. It's good if you can just spell out the URLs. We'll put it all in the show notes, but a bunch of people, they'll just hear it. It'll be better if they just hear it.
Yeah, they just need more sunlight so that your brain is firing, Yes, definitely if this intrigued you, I actually have a full 2-hour webinar available on my website for purchase that you can get and share with your friends and family, and you'll get all the slides and pictures and all the information in detail. You can find that at my website. The website is lightshapes.life. Lightshapes.life. But I'm also on Instagram, and you can find me there at Jolie_in_soul. So I will spell that one. It's JOLIE_EN_SOL. So Jolie_in_soul. And I'm usually posting there every couple of days, research articles, information, memes, posts on sun, anything that has to do with how light shapes our life. And then again, at our website, you can find my webinar for purchase. I also have a page of other podcasts I've been on, resources of scientific articles. This information is out there, people, for free. It's just that you're not going to see it on the mainstream media, in your doctor's offices, or from Big Pharma at all. There's books, and there's also referrals for physicians and places that you can go to find doctors practicing the quantum lifestyle that understand how light affects your life.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. It has been a pleasure to be on. I really appreciate it. And let me know how your new light protocols are going.
Will do, for sure. Yeah, I'm definitely going to try it, for sure.
Let us know how your ball sunning goes too, Graham.
Thanks, but I will.
And
all right, Jackie.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. And that was a chat with Jackie Jolie. What'd you think, buddy?
Well, yeah, it was good. I wanted to ask her a question, and I forgot until the very end again about the quantum, about naming it quantum. Like, I'm surprised Jack Cruz, too, named it quantum. Like, I feel like that sort of word is being ostracized and just being used too much for these things, Like, it's too bad it couldn't be named something around light or water, like photon water healing or something,
Quantum.
Quantum. Everything's quantum now. But, whatever, that's fine.
Anyway, big thanks to Jackie for coming on the show. Big thanks to you guys for listening. Check out her stuff. Check out her
I'm going to try it.
I bet you are. It's good that you're back to trying stuff.
I have been. I've been experimenting because, I knew this was coming up, but I'm going to hit it a little harder. Make sure it's darker at night.
There you go. And get out more.
You're
looking awful white for mid-April. You're going to get sunburned in Utah. Big thanks to Jack for coming on the show. Big thanks to you guys for listening. If you do want to, you have to be catching live for this, but we are going to Utah next week. If you guys want to come, contact at thecabin.com. Of course, we need you guys to support us. If you are getting some value from a little podcast here, all for free, almost 600 episodes. We'll be at 600 here pretty quick before summer, coming up our 10-year anniversary. Head over to Grimericans.ca/support today. Sign up for a monthly or make a one-time donation or do something, do something. Don't just freeload if you can afford it. We could use the support. We're trying to make it go at a bunch of stuff here, and we can't do it without you. So
send a note, send an email, and join the chats. We got a gilded server now. Join that.
Grimerica.ca/chats.
Oh, I don't know if that's set up yet. We got to set that up.
Well, whatever. You'll get there. We'll get you there in one way or another. Adultbrain.ca for all the audiobooks. Contact at thecabin.com for the trips. Grimerica Outlaw is our other podcast we do where we talk about stuff that we're not allowed to talk about. We're not allowed to live stream on most.
This one was getting pretty close.
Yeah, and we were just skirting the edges. It was fine. It's fine. Other than that, we love you guys. Thanks for listening. And we will see you next week. All right. Right on. Thanks for tuning into the live show, guys. We appreciate it. Bunch of people on Rockfin. The Rockfin started up late. The Rumble was even later. The Facebook
really
later.
Interesting.
Well, I didn't notice. It looked like maybe you had only set up the 2 streams, but when I only looked up 8 minutes in, and the only ones that were streaming were Rockfin and YouTube. So I turned on the Facebook and you have to click them all individually.
And the Rumble too? Then the Rumble started working once you clicked it?
The Rumble started, I think they were all working by the end. I mean, you'd have to double check it to see if that actually all worked out, but I think anyway, thanks. Thanks for tuning into the live show, guys. I think we'll be back next week with some more. Ciao.
Right on. Thanks.